Hello, so this is the AO1 for duress of circumstances, and really it just follows a series of cases and each case adds to the law or restricts it in some way. Okay, so first of all, I would say it's a recent defence, mid-1980s, so for law that is recent, and it probably replaces necessity. It's a full defence. Burden of proof is on the prosecution to prove that the defendant acted with their own free will and they were not forced by the circumstances to act. So we are saying that the defendant is forced to commit a crime due to the circumstances in which they find themselves. So the first case, Willer, recognises the defence, and then it is firmly established as a defence in the case of Conway. Okay, the next issue is Martin. The case of Martin clarified that in duress of circumstances, we need to use the two-stage test that we use in duress of threats. Okay, and that is the Graham test. So the first part is, if you remember from duress of threats, subjective. Did the defendant act because they feared death or serious injury if they didn't act? And then secondly, would a sober person of reasonable firmness with the defendant's characteristics have reacted in the same way? Now, link back to Bowen characteristics. So low IQ, being timid, not a characteristic. Being pregnant, having a mental or physical disability is a characteristic, as is age and gender. The next case is Pommel. Now, Pommel was the first non-driving offence to come to court, and with the defendant trying to claim circumstances. So Pommel, the man who took the gun from a member of the public, Pommel's an important case. It establishes quite a few different things. So first of all, it's the first non-driving offence. So it allows us to use circumstances for non-driving offences. It also limits the defence because it says it's not available to murder or attempted murder or treason. And then finally, it talks about a delay. So the defendant must try to stop committing the crime as soon as they possibly can. The longer the delay, so the longer in reporting this crime or going to the police, the less likely the defendant is to be successful. So they could still be successful, but it's less likely. Okay, the next two cases is the same point of law, that the crime must be reasonable and proportionate. So Bell and Davies said, whatever crime you commit, it has to be reasonable and proportionate to the threat. So if it's drink driving, driving a short distance, so to the police station, for example, or to escape, is proportionate. However, if you were to drive 50 miles, then that is not proportionate and reasonable. The issue of harm, so it has to be serious harm or death that you find yourself faced with. It has to be physical harm. It cannot be psychological harm. So this links to duress of threat, so it's the same issue. And this was established in the case of Baker, so it must be physical harm. You also have to identify who the threat is to, like who are you trying to protect. Now, in the case of Shayler, the MI5 agent, he said he was trying to protect the public, and they said that is not close enough. It's not a recognisable threat. It's too vague, the term the public, so you have to be more specific. And then finally, the issue of what if in reality there is no threat? So in Safi, there was no threat. In Cairns, there was no threat. But we have to consider the defendant's perception of the threat. So that is the AO1. Watch the AO3 in case you get an essay.